What can men do against such reckless hate?
What can men do against such
Warbird.
reckless fucking deserting? Like, they're not moving in anything less than 96 plus. This is ridiculous.
Hello, fellow Araxians. Today I want to talk about the spawn system. In its current state, PlanetSide 2 is too far into the sandbox end of the spectrum to reliably generate fun, balanced fights.
We gotta hold out triple, man. There's nothing we can do against anything else here. Gotta hold in triple, make them come through choke points.
We're going to tackle the spawn system in a 4-part process. First, we're going to strip away all the rules of the spawn system, so we can start from ground zero. Then we're going to create locations, places where the spawn system actually wants to put people.
What I want to do.
And then we're going to give that spawn system goals. What is the spawn system trying to achieve when it is opening up access to players to a certain area? And finally, we're going to give the spawn system tools to achieve those set goals in those locations. Let's dive into part 1, the rules. The option to spawn at any Sunderer within 1,000 meters is gone. It seems good on paper. The problem is, sometimes Sunderers get deployed in places where there are no actionable objectives.
What I'm currently trying to do, I just got spawned out on this Sunday on a territory that's 2 away from anything that we can take. There's a Sunday in Freyr Northern Barracks.
The nearest spawn point to where most of your squad is gone. You've probably been there where you start up a tiny little fight, 2 guys spawn in, and then in no time you're outnumbered 4-1. Any squad beacon within 1,000 meters is gone. Squad beacons end up being either way too powerful, where they can transfer a whole squad based off of the work of one person, or way too frustrating to use when the person puts down a beacon and no one can use it because they're out of range by 100 meters. Instant action in its current form is removed. We will be bringing this back in a different form, but right now it drops people where it thinks there's action. That could be even if it's a 96 versus 4. Or sometimes it drops people on an even fight, but it's already 96 versus 96, and you want to get people off of that lattice. Being able to spawn in any squad-occupied Sunderer is gone. We'll see this come back to the system later after its revamp. Finally, and this is going to be the toughest pill for people to swallow, but also the most important, squad spawn in Galaxies and Valkyries is gone. This is one of the most devastating and disruptive things to the flow of battle in PlanetSide. Air insertions in general are wildly powerful, and the only way to balance them is to ensure they have the cost of having to spawn at a warp gate or a base, and then actually land to pick up the people that they will insert. The fact that my tight-knit, highly coordinated outfit can be fighting at one base, send our Galaxy pilots 3,000 meters across the map, and our only downtime is the 10 seconds it takes to redeploy, is impossible to balance. The toughest thing for PlanetSide in general to balance is the high-skilled groups working in unison. And a system like this makes the already powerful even more powerful, while the uncohesive public platoons rarely are able to take advantage of this feature. And we're not even going to talk about those 2 people in a Valkyrie that can decimate an entire armor column just by respawning into the Valkyrie and already having their C4 reloaded. Okay, so all that we have left is you can spawn at the hard spawn closest to you, generally the base you're in. You can spawn at the major facility behind you, so you could pull some sort of force multiplier. And you can spawn at the warp gate. Let's build the system back up. First, we're going to talk about spawn locations. We're going to coin a term here, and we're going to call them lanes of engagement. To begin, we need to go over some basic numbers. Roughly speaking, there are 5 lanes of engagement for each warp gate. Indar and Hassan follow this trend almost perfectly. Amrish actually goes up to roughly 6, but you'll notice 1 is usually empty. And Esamir ducks down to 4 depending on what warp gate you're at. Now, since we're in the Hex Lattice Hybrid, we can easily adjust this to 5 lanes of engagement on all 4 maps so the spawn system works universally. So we have our locations. What is the spawn system trying to do in each lane of engagement? So, prime time full content, we're going to say that's 1,050 people. The spawn system is trying to get 50 to 70 people from each faction on each lane of engagement. The math is pretty easy there. Now let's look at what is the more common scenario. That is, either the continent is not fully loaded or faction populations are imbalanced. This is when we get into a lot of the very uneven fights. And this is also the area where the lanes of engagement really shine. First, when we're at low world pop, the spawn system knows it doesn't have enough bodies to fill out a full continent. So it's going to pick a primary lane, the lane that is trying to get up to that 50-man fight. It's going to pick a spillover lane because people don't always want to be in the big fight. This gives people a few more options, and then it's going to take offline one of the lanes against either of the factions. So, without changing the surface area of the map, you've made the map a lot smaller and given the spawn system a lot of tools to focus the small amount of population. Now let's go into imbalanced faction populations. I did a whole video how PlanetSide is actually in great shape in regards to this. It just doesn't take advantage of it right now. In 2-faction games, you're just screwed when one faction has more population. In a 3-faction game, if you do your math right, you can still balance the fights up to an upper threshold of one faction hitting around 48% population. In this case, the TR have a significant population advantage. So the spawn system has decided to reduce the ability for the VS and the NC to fight each other. First, by locking one of the lanes of engagement. And second, it is drastically limiting the amount of population it will let spawn into a VS-NC fight. In this manner, even though the TR has significantly more faction population, every lane of engagement still has an even fight. Okay, that's the easy stuff. I think people can pick out the lanes easy enough, and I know everyone can get on board with wanting to have even fights around the clock. Giving the spawn systems tools to actually do that is where people are actually going to have to start feeling some pain. The prime example is the Galaxy Drop. Galaxy Drops are never going to go away. We don't want them to go away, they're fun as hell, but right now they eliminate logistics in any form. Since we've stripped the system of all these convoluted spawn options, getting around is actually going to matter again. And once it involves logistics again, a whole bunch of people are not going to want to deal with that bullcrap, and that gives the spawn system control. Because then, when you give the spawn system instant action back, it can put that person that doesn't want to drive or fly where it needs bodies. That person doesn't get to spawn into that fight that's already 50 versus 50. If they want it easy, they have to spawn into the next lane that the spawn system is trying to build an even fight in. The spawn system will have 2 primary tools to keep the population in the 50 to 70% threshold, and 1 secondary tool to help keep the front line engaged. The first part of the primary tools is the carrot. This is a start a fight button. The spawn system will determine a location where it either needs to shift population to, or it wants to begin an engagement at. People taking this spawn will get a 50% experience bonus for the next 16 seconds as long as they stay in that lane of engagement. They will not have to depend on Sunderers. They will be able to click a drop pod spawn option every time they die to stay engaged at that point until the spawn system decide the fight is stable enough on that lane of engagement. The other tool it has kicks in once a lane of engagement reaches 70 people, and this is the stick. At that threshold, the spawn time immediately doubles, inflicting instant pain so people don't gradually get used to it. Big red letters across their screen let them know that the nanite biologic printing facilities in that lane of engagement are overloaded and printing times are doubled. This can usually be used in conjunction with the carrot to give them an easy out to another lane with bonus experience and a guaranteed spawn point so they know the fight won't fall apart over there. So you have the carrot and the stick to maintain control of population. Now you need one more tool to make sure the combatants can actually stay engaged at the front lines. And this is where we bring back the squad spawn, except it's a button that is get to the front line. This button will drop you inside an empty seat on an unlocked vehicle on your lane of engagement, or if none are available, it will give you a drop pod at the front line, and it now knows exactly where that is because of the Hex Lattice system. Any empty seat in a ground vehicle that's unlocked becomes a spawn option. That means harassers going about their business on the front line can be popping out Planet Men as it goes by. MBTs can easily find gunners as they will materialize in their tanks. So now, as the line moves forward, the spawn points move with the line because the spawn points are now the moving vehicles. That means Sunders no longer have to be deployed and vulnerable to be spawn options. What this does is it makes the front line mobile. Right now the game is so dependent on fixed spawn points that are so easy to kill to keep the fight going. Those spawn points just aren't sticky. The spawn points need to move along with the front lines, and that is where the vehicle play really comes in. That's it for now. The final word in this video goes to Vindicor. We already have our hard spawns in the bases. Now take his idea, slap a few jump seats on MBTs. The vehicles will now generate the battle lines in those glorious open field fights. Infantry spawning to the front lines will end up in those jump seats, hop off, right in the middle of an epic firefight.